Hey guys, welcome to the Joy of Awareness. My name is Tolly Bryn. Today I want to make a video on our favorite topic, responsibility. So when it comes to healing and just finding the health that you're looking for, whether that be, as I've spoken about before, overcoming autoimmune issues, eczema, topical steroid withdrawal, all these horrifying things that just keep us in shackles for long periods of time. Responsibility is key, and what I mean by that is you need to realize that nobody is coming to save you. For some reason, we are, somehow led to believe or conditioned to believe that there is this overarching institution of medicine, and especially in like social democratic countries such as Iceland, where I live now, there's this thought that the government is going to come save you, that your taxes are going into supporting this behemoth of a healthcare system, and that all these doctors, all these pharmaceutical companies, they're there to help you and to save you and to keep you healthy. And that is one of the biggest lies that I was ever told growing up. I think many of us figure that out pretty soon, when we start to see, the drugs don't work, the surgery doesn't work, not as it's supposed to. And this is not to bash truly helpful medical intervention, because absolutely, like if I am ever in a car crash, if I break my arm, if something comes up that really needs acute medical attention, then I'll be very thankful to be allowed into the ER. I'll be very thankful to be in the hands of competent, knowledgeable doctors who know what they're doing. But when it comes to long-term health, when it comes to chronic illness, when it comes to actually living life as a healthy, whole, and thriving human being, all this stuff just gets in the way. And the conceptions that we have around this system just gets in our way. And this is what I mean by responsibility, personal responsibility for your health. When I was sick, this is a few years ago now, I overcame my illness permanently about 3 years ago, a little less than 3 years ago. Before that, I had been sick I'd been sick more or less since childhood. Like, I had been having eczema, and I'd been slowly but surely using more and more pharmaceutical drugs that were prescribed to me by my doctor, who I never second guessed. I never took responsibility for thinking about these things myself, never did any research on harmful effects of pharmaceuticals. And to some extent, that is totally understandable. Like, if you're conditioned to believe something, then that is what you will believe. That's your programming. The trick is breaking free from that programming. And that requires responsibility. That requires you to take responsibility for your own health. If you think about it, your body and your mind, in the first case, they're not separate. So your mind-body system, this is your vehicle to go through life. This is your vehicle to go through life. And so far as I know, you only get the one shot in this body. Maybe there'll be reincarnation after you die, and you'll have another body or whatever. But it stands to reason that in this lifetime, with this body, you will want to do everything in your power to keep it as thriving and as healthy as absolutely possible. It's incredibly important not only to be consistent and do the things that you know are healthy, it is also so incredibly important that you put in the time and effort to learn about the body. The way I learn about the body is, on the one hand, I do research. I read a lot of research and a lot of both scientific scientific studies, peer-reviewed studies, but also a lot of anecdotal evidence, because what I've realized is that the peer-reviewed scientific journals, they do have like real hard limits. There are things that you can gain from reading research that's well done, but I'd highly recommend that you look up something called the replication crisis. This is a problem within many fields of science, and particularly the medical field and the social sciences, where a large majority of the research and the studies that are done are impossible to replicate for whatever reason, whether it be actually finding people to replicate the study, whether it be resources, whether it be conditions. I'm not a medical researcher, so I don't know exactly what is behind this, but as I understand it, there's a huge problem with reliability of studies in the medical field. And it's incredibly important to become aware of this, because there are massive financial interests. There are massive financial interests devoted to keeping you in the lie, to keeping you in the fold, to keep you believing that the only way to being healthy is through their methods, is through their studies, and that everything else is either dangerous or quackery. And I can tell you this: if breaking through my own illness, if getting over my chronic autoimmune issues through fasting and various other other things that are deemed to be, alternative medicine, if that makes me a quack, then I will happily be a quack. Because these people are liars. They're buffoons and they're cowards. And once you see this and realize this, then what they think won't affect you anymore. A large majority of doctors, pharmaceutical company representatives, these people, they're bad people. They may not think they're bad people, but they are. And if they would take a few minutes of self-inquiry and actually put some effort into developing their own consciousness and understanding of what it is they're doing, of the immeasurable harm they're doing to people through their lies, then they would realize it too. And I didn't want to really take this to such a dark place, but I think it's really important to understand that these people are not on your team. They do not have your health in mind. There is a huge system of deceit around human health. And there are huge financial interests that want to keep you sick, because that way you'll buy more drugs, more surgery, more treatment. That being said, that's the dark side of it. But there is a light side as well. The light side is that you have more power over your own health, over your own body, than you can possibly imagine. Like, I feel like I've made a lot of progress on this journey of finding true thriving and health in my own life, but I feel like I've just scratched the surface. Like, every single month, every single year, I'm making huge discoveries, self-discoveries. I'm having huge epiphanies on just what it means to be a healthy human being. You know, in 2019, when I overcame my illness, I believed that human health was more or less confined to the body, and if I managed to heal my body, then I would manage to heal any and all sort of mental illnesses that I may have. And this is true to some extent. There is a lot of evidence, anecdotal and scientific evidence, to suggest that a healthy body helps to breed a healthy mind. But I've found that there are layers to this work. So, for instance, when I came out on the other side of this summer of 2019, where I fasted, religiously, I did long fasts, short fasts, and ate incredibly simply in between. I fixed my gut flora, my digestive system just had a revamp. I overcame all of these autoimmune conditions such as allergies, intolerances, eczema, overcame the topical steroid withdrawal symptoms that I had been dealing with for 5 years. And with it came a sense of peace. A lot of the depression and anxiety just absolutely disappeared from my mind and from my body, because obviously, if you really think about it, if you really dive deep, depression and anxiety has somatic and physical elements to it that you can feel. The tightness in the chest, the soreness in the throat, like you want to cry, the feeling of shame down in your nether regions. Like, they all have somatic components to them. And a lot of that was sort of dissipated for a large part as I came out of that summer. Now, it's important to realize also that obviously overcoming chronic illness will get you out of a state of depression, because chronic illness breeds depression. Like, that's a fact. If you're chronically ill for any period of time, you will become depressed, and you will become probably anxious as well, and you'll probably have all kinds of mental issues come up around that, insecurities, and trauma, to be honest with you. And that's definitely what happened to me. And the work that I'm doing these days, as much as I'm interested in physical health and being strong and healthy and all that, I'm getting more interested in the mental aspects of it. I'm still working through and still learning to work through the trauma that was engendered during that time of physical illness. There was so many different things came up during that time: social anxieties, sexual anxieties, just like mortal fear of my life being over, all of this stuff. So there's a sense of complex PTSD that managed to develop during that time that I really need to work through. And I find this to be incredibly difficult but incredibly rewarding work. And I feel like right now, during this last period of a few weeks, I've been making huge breakthroughs on this, and that is part of the reason why I have sort of reignited the flame of passion for delivering this information to you. But the key to all of this is that I made a decision. I made the decision that my health was in my own hands, that I wouldn't like close off any other avenues of finding health. Like I was open to finding people who knew more than me and learning from them and trying to understand what needed to happen for healing to happen. But I made the decision that this is my body, this is my health, so it's my responsibility. And there's a lot of power in making that decision. So what I want you to take from this video is to stop pushing the responsibility for your health onto others. Because even though there are good people out there, there are good doctors, there are good doctors out there, there are good medical practitioners, but you as a chronically sick person will be a target for people with nefarious purposes. That's what happened to me. Not only will you be a target for people with nefarious purposes, you'll also be a target for, just people who are somewhat psychopathic in nature. It may not even be a question of evil. It may just be a question of, grifting. Like they see there's a desperate person there, desperate to find healing, and they know that they can get you to give them money, even though they won't give you value back. That is something to be incredibly aware of. And I had many such encounters with many different practitioners of health. These people thrive on illness, and they thrive on pain. And if that doesn't make them evil, then I don't know what does. Taking responsibility for your own life will be the single greatest decision that you will make when it comes to your health. There are endless things that you can do to develop yourself into a healthy human being. But there are things that you need to develop. You need to, number one, you need to develop your critical thinking skills. You need to learn to see through crap. That was incredibly helpful for me during the last few years of, whatever the hell was actually going on. There was this absolute hysteria around something that is absolutely ridiculous, and a huge push from people who want money from sick people, who want money from gullible people, to take medications that may very likely cause them long-term harm. My critical thinking skills were very helpful in that regard. I saw through it right away, along with many other people. Like I'm not saying I'm special. I'm saying there are people who have seen through the veil, who will not be fooled so easily. So critical thinking skills are number one. Number two is discipline. When you find what works, when you find a methodology that works for you and you see results, you need to develop discipline to follow it through. Now, to be honest with you, this wasn't so much of a problem for me. Let me rephrase that. I throughout the years, I've always kind of prided myself of being sort of stubborn and disciplined in my life. Like I had no problem exercising and staying away from unhealthy foods for the most part. I would have periods where it would be more difficult, but I kind of see myself as a pretty disciplined person. But as soon as I started seeing the healing that started happening, as I fasted, as I simplified my diet, and as I started putting those critical thinking skills to use in actually figuring out ways out of this chronic illness, as I started seeing the results that came from that, discipline wasn't really necessary. Like, yeah, for sure, it's necessary to be disciplined in saying, I'm not going to eat. Eating is such a pleasure and such a basic human need that you do need discipline to tell yourself you're not going to do it. But it's also a question of incentive. As soon as you see the healing, like me, if you have been sick for 5 years and all of a sudden you try something and it's like, I'm 20% better, I'm 30% better, like that is a deep motivation to keep going. Because we all want to be healthy, we all want to thrive, we all want endless energy. That is just part of being human. And as soon as you find something that works, then you will latch onto it like a leech, or like a monkey or something. Just thought leech was kind of a negative thing, but you really latch onto it. As soon as you find something that really works and you feel it works, and it's not hiding the symptoms like all of the stupid drugs that you're being pushed, that you actually feel the healing happening from inside. As soon as you feel that, you'll latch onto it and you won't let go. You'll keep going. So while discipline is necessary to get you through it, you don't have to be, some US Marine style disciplined like soldier dude or girl. You just need to get through the initial difficulties. There is a lot to health. There is a lot to understanding health. The psychosomatic component is also quite complicated to those who haven't been thinking about it a lot. But as you begin, following this journey, as you begin, like if you've been listening to my videos, you'll see my own development in this area. I've learned so much, and there's still so much more to learn. And the more you learn, the more you'll see that. You'll see like, wow, I thought I knew something, I really don't. Like, there's so much more to learn. And as you continue down this path, you will probably have plateaus, kind of like I did. I got really, really healthy in 2019, I feel like I reached a certain pinnacle there. I was able to break out of a lot of addictive patterns that I'd been stuck in. But then, as a few years went by, I found myself back in a few of these patterns again. And the reason was that those patterns were not tied to my physical illness. They were tied to deeper emotional trauma. So even though I had the incredible thriving health that I had always wanted, I was still dealing with difficulties. And I was like, I thought I had overcome everything, but I hadn't. There was still more work to be done, and there still is. And maybe there always will be, I don't know. But this is work that I'm happy to continue doing. And there are so many aspects to this. And what makes me most hopeful is that all of these aspects are interconnected. So as you develop yourself in one area, you will see development in other areas as well. And this is certainly what I felt with my physical healing. Like, a healthy body is a prerequisite to so many other things. There are so many doors that are closed to you when you're sick. When I was sick, I couldn't work. I couldn't sleep with my girlfriend. I developed substance addictions. I couldn't focus. I couldn't sleep. All of these things are just really, really difficult to comprehend for people who haven't dealt with it. But healing myself physically sort of freed me to fix these other areas of my life. And not only that, they also freed me to start developing myself financially as well. And you may be thinking that finances aren't really connected to physical health. And on the surface, you'd probably be right, but I've come to realize that all of these things are so deeply interconnected that you can't really look at one thing without looking at all the other things. Financial insecurity is a hell of an anxiety-inducing state. I remember when I was really sick, I had no money. I was getting into debt just to stay alive. I needed to pay my bills. And I was getting into debt. I couldn't work because of my state. Because of my state of health. And that just made everything so much worse. So that's something that I've been working on developing now. And there are deep mental blockages to being able to make money in other ways than, slaving yourself out for an employer. And even though that's still, the larger part of my income comes from working jobs for other people, but I am slowly but surely developing other ways of making an income. And that's all really connected to the sort of mental health aspect of all of this. And, I just, as a caveat, I just want to throw in here that when I talk about mental health, I'm not talking about it from the psychiatric perspective. I'm not talking about all the diagnoses, the ADHD, the autism, the depression, the anxiety, and all that stuff. I use these words sometimes to get my point across. But that is an incredibly superficial and harmful business, the business of psychiatry. It's reductionist and it's positivist, and they, as a profession, psychiatrists act as if they know the truth when they don't. They know nothing. Mental health is such a multifaceted thing. If you're depressed, it's not a chemical imbalance in your brain. Although, there are chemicals in your brain, there will probably be imbalances in your brain. But there are reasons for that. Your body is not an irrational, gooey machine somehow. No, it's infinitely sophisticated and it's infinitely rational. And if you're depressed, you can be certain that there are reasons for it. If you're anxious, you can be absolutely certain that there are environmental and physical reasons for that state. And that's the work that I've been working. That's the work that I've been doing, is figuring out what are these causes? What makes a person sick in their minds? And that is, let me tell you, that is interesting work. That is there are gold mines out there on information on how to heal yourself mentally. But if you are chronically ill, like I was, then the first thing to do is to heal your body. I do believe that that is the baseline that you need to do. And if you follow my other videos and my future videos on physical healing, then you will find true thriving health. And that is an incredible baseline to build upon. Now, I want to end this video here, but I do want to point out that I have 2 books out on Amazon. They're not expensive and they are chock full of wisdom, if I do say so myself. I put a lot of work into making them incredibly concise and helpful. I've had nothing but good reviews from people who have read them. And they dive really deep into the subject that I'm talking about here. My first book, Health Simplified, and I'll leave links down below so you can check them out. My first book, Health Simplified, goes into the physical aspects of healing, what I did to heal myself, and the philosophy behind it. Mind Reclaimed, which is the second book in that series, deals more with the mental aspect, and in that book you will get more of an understanding of what I mean when I talk about mental health. You'll find a lot of value in these books. I guarantee it. I really hope you'll check them out. You can check out my website as well, joyofawareness.com. got a lot of articles on there that you'll probably find very interesting. Finally, just like and subscribe, like share this stuff. This is life-changing stuff, and I want you to share it as much as you can. I'm trying to keep as much of this stuff as accessible and as free and cheap as I possibly can, so that I can get to as many people as possible. If you can help me by sharing this stuff, by liking, subscribing, getting the algorithm up, then please do, because this is important stuff and I want as many people as possible to hear it. But apart from that, I hope you stay healthy, I hope you stay disciplined, and don't let the grifters and the liars get the upper hand. Peace.